Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of the Chrysalis Effect, where we are transforming mind, money, and manifestations. I am Monique White, your host, and I am super excited that you have decided to join me today. Well, I hope everyone's having a great day. As the title says, we are going to be talking about money today. But before I jump into that, I want to encourage you to hit that little notification bell, like and subscribe, and share your comments with me. And also share this out to 3 people. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So let's dive in. No one wants to talk about money, but because we are in tax season, because we are transforming mind, money, and manifestation, I wanted to speak on money matters today. Is that okay with you? Let's talk money matters. Today, I want to talk about the importance of budgeting and accounting, particularly in business. As I said, we're in tax season. And, let's face it, money does matter. The Bible it never said money is the root of all evil. People get that wrong. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. And it's pretty apparent, right, that you can't transform your circumstances without it in this world. And one of the ways that we can amass money and wealth is through multiple streams of income, not relying on just one. And especially in these times, in the past couple of years, people have really, that fact really has been driven home, correct? People were out of work and they had to find other ways of deriving income. So they're branching out. Paradigms are shifting. People are looking for new ways and new paths to create income while also getting that life balance, right? Even though some people say there really is no work-life balance, but having a balance for wellness and well-being. And through the past couple of years, we have seen a reassessment about employment, about income, about what does it really mean to be prosperous. So against that backdrop, I wanted to address a couple of things that I have come across with clients and a couple of things that I'm seeing and hearing, because there are some fundamental principles that we must follow. Like it or not, there's some fundamental principles that we must follow in our pursuit of financial freedom. And these lessons, if you will make your transformation less painful. Believe me, I made my own mistakes when I was starting out. So here's the stats. Typically, there is a little over 40% of startups that start with less than $5,000. Home-based businesses start out with sometimes $3,000 or less. And the biggest mistake that new entrepreneurs make, new business people make when it comes to money, let's talk about the big ones first before we get to what I really want to focus on. Miscalculating, right? Failing to plan, failing to know your costs, failing to know your numbers. If a widget costs $15 to produce, you're not going to go out and sell it for 10, right? Failure to research and understand the market for your particular market or service, or your product or service, Acquiring too much debt, taking out loans, or even overhead, and expanding too quickly before you're really ready to scale. And a big pitfall of all of this is handling your own finances, being cheap, I said it. Instead of getting an accountant to do the work or having an adequate system in place, which leads me to the point that I want to take today and really focus on, leads me to commingling. I want to focus on commingling, my pet peeve. Particularly, I want to talk about the prohibition against commingling. Now, that being said, let's first define what commingling is. Commingling is combining of your personal and your business finances. It's putting everything into one pot. Think of just having one checking account for personal and business. It's treating all the money as just one thing. And I have run across clients, or it will come up in conversation, as I said before, with new entrepreneurs who don't have a business bank account, who will actually ask me, do I need one? Should I get one? Well, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Or I'll see them use business funds for personal purposes. You cannot run a successful, legitimate business by rating it, by treating its funds as your own personal piggy bank. You will run that business into the ground, correct? You have to decide whether you have a business or a side hustle, because there is a distinction. Do you have a business or do you have a side hustle? If you have a business and you want to use that business to help you transform your circumstances, you must not commingle your funds. You must not commingle your funds. If you're going to transform your circumstances, there are best practices that need to be followed. You need to separate your funds. You need to keep your receipts. Because commingling is a setup for headache, problems, and failure. Actually, courts have held that one factor in the test to determine whether to get rid of a entity's limited liability is whether the individual members or stockholders are carrying on their business in a personal capacity purely for personal reasons. That's what a court's going to look to. So, and how are they going to determine that? One way is looking at how you're handling your funds and the assets. Are you using the business funds and assets for personal use? You know, you want to keep your business liabilities over there with the business. You don't want your personal stuff put at risk. And the only way to really do that is to make sure you keep them separate. It's simple. It's simple. Because, here's the thing. Unless you are a sole proprietor, because the sole proprietor takes on all the risk and the profits. Unless you are a sole proprietor, there are just rules and practices that you must follow. As I said, sole proprietors are kind of different, but even still, it's not good business practice to commingle your funds. If you have another form of entity, your liability companies, your corporations, your nonprofits, they are a whole nother beast. There are rules concerning that company's or organization's assets, and there are repercussions if those rules aren't followed. Now, look at corporations. Corporations have the best protection, but they also have the most. rules and regulations. And a corporation can lose those protections if it's found that it's being used in a purely personal way. Hear me clearly. You can actually invalidate your limited liability protection, by commingling funds. And honestly, it is so much easier to keep track of what is what when you have them separated. How much money is coming in to the business? How much money is going out and to where? It's so much easier when you have these things separated. When they're together, you can become easily confused of what's personal money that you can spend at will and what is business money. When you have the deductions coming and expenditures coming out of the same account, it's hard to keep track of what is a business expenditure and what is a personal expenditure. Additionally, if you have an interest-bearing account, what goes to business, what goes to personal? Any person in business is going to be looking at deductions. You're going to need accounting and receipts. You must be able to show a legitimate business purpose. And really, I don't say that to scare anyone. I don't say that to discourage anyone. It doesn't have to be complicated. I know when I was just starting out, my first business, I kept my receipts in a shoebox. I just threw them all in there, all jumbled together. And come tax time, I just handed it over to Brad, my accountant, since I bought my first house at 21. I just would hand him the box. He knew what it was. And I let him handle that. That was his ministry. Here you go. You figure it out. The point is, I kept track. Maybe not the best way of keeping track at the time, but I kept track. I kept things separate. So he could then track the funds and properly fill out the paperwork that needed to be filled out. And as you grow, of course, you're going to put better systems in place, more efficient systems in place. But my point is, it doesn't have to be complicated. And another point of keeping things separate is it serves the purpose of showing you what is working and what is not working, what is draining your resources and what is turning a profit. It helps with efficiency and productivity. I talked previously on this podcast about a solid foundation. Having separate accounts, a dedicated account for your business is part of that foundation. My guest, Susan Morenga, she came on and she talked about the profit first method. There are resources out there to help you, but it is very, very hard to transform your circumstances if you're all jammed up. And if you commingle your funds, you run the risk of being jammed up. You're on shaky ground if you don't take the time to build that or put that financial frame of separating your funds in place. So, as you embark or continue on your journey in business or entrepreneurship, take this lesson to heart. Do not commingle your personal and business funds. Thank you, everyone. That's all I have for you today. Let's continue on this journey of transforming our mind, money, and manifestations. One quick note before I leave you. I am looking for 25 co-authors for the upcoming anthology, Overcoming Desolate Places. I still have some slots open. If you have a testimony to share, You want to publish a professionally designed, edited, and formatted book at a fraction of the cost, receive writing support, marketing tools. I encourage you to sign up to be a part of this anthology. You can do so by going to www.triumphsbcs.com/co-author. That is www.triumphsbcs.com/co-author. Of course, if you want to connect with me, you can do so on all my social media channels at Triumph SBCS, or you can book a connection call by going to www.bit.ly/evertransform.